Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our session today. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm one of the co-founders at 𝐒𝐩𝐞𝐫. We're excited to be here today with George Washington University. We're going to take a couple of minutes before I start the introduction and go further. We can see a lot of you joining quite quickly. There's nearly 200 of you here, which is great. In the meantime, while we wait for a couple of minutes, it'll be great if you can start posting what location are you joining us from, which city are you in at the moment. Just post in the chat function, just so we have a sense of the audience. There's people from Delhi, Trichy, exciting to see people from across the country, Mumbai, Jalandhar, Lucknow, Ahmedabad. Hello, everybody. Nellore, Chennai, Kolkata. Wonderful, wonderful. Warangal, Dehradun, oh, lovely city. Great to have you all here. Mumbai, Sonipat. Wonderful. We're nearly 260 of us here. We'll wait for another minute. There are several of you joining every second, so we'll hold off before we start this exciting session today. Keep posting where you're joining in from. It's just good for us to know where you're coming in from. Several people from Delhi, Jaipur. So before we begin and I go into introductions, just a couple of things about today's session. You are all more than welcome to ask questions through our Q&A chatbot on the side. Our goal today is to help you make more informed decisions. We're going to talk about several things that will help you through this journey to make that ideal career post a STEM master's in the US. We'll also talk about admissions and how it is to be studying at George Washington University. We're about a minute or two away before we start, so please make sure questions are posted only in the Q&A chat. The standard chat will be disabled once the presentation begins. And you are more than welcome to keep posting questions. We're going to take questions towards the end of this session once both the masterclass and the admissions chat is done. So, right, we are nearly about to start. We're 350 people in. Great. For all of you joining us, once again, welcome and thank you for joining. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm one of the co-founders at 𝐒𝐩𝐞𝐫. At 𝐒𝐩, we help you make more informed decisions about your higher education choices. We're here to bridge the gap between international universities and students in India. We host numerous virtual events in partnership with top-ranked schools and provide information on building successful careers in technology, marketing, and also talk about admissions and all things on campus. In today's event, we're partnering with George Washington University School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. We have nearly 1,200 people registered, so it is going to be quite a busy session. As I mentioned, please keep asking your questions in the chat, in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar. About GW and the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. They're based in DC, and you'll hear more from the director in a short bit. They have several programs for undergraduate, postgraduate, and professional candidates. School of Engineering and Applied Sciences is home to 6 academic departments that blend the rigor of mathematical discipline, the joy of scientific exploration, and guided discovery of engineering principles to develop the engineering and computer science leaders for tomorrow. First up, our first speaker is Chalvonna. Chalvonna is a career education professional with over 14 years of experience in the higher education domain. Of these 14 years, she spent nearly 8 or over 8 years at GW and leads the career services department there now. In the second half of the session, you will also hear from Brittany Wright. Brittany is the Director of Graduate Enrollment Management and Advising at GW School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. She spent the last 12 years counseling students to help achieve their career goals. At this point, we're going to launch our first poll before I hand over to Chalvonna to start her session. The first question for all of you is on the screen. How likely are you to pursue your higher education STEM masters in the US? It's a quick poll just to understand the pulse of your interest. Very likely, somewhat likely, not sure, unlikely. Tell us your opinions quickly. This will run for about 15 more seconds. A STEM master's is a great gateway to a career in STEM in the US. We're going to try and close the poll in about 5 seconds. So hopefully you've all got a chance to put a quick vote in. If not, requesting you to do that quickly. And here we are. We're going to close the poll now. So a quick look at the results. So about 30% of you are very likely to start a STEM program in the US. 36% of you are somewhat likely. About 30% of you are unsure. So hopefully this session will give you a lot of tips to look at, making that informed choice. Just under 5% of you are unlikely. Wonderful. So with that in mind, Chalvonna, over to you to start about how do we build successful careers in STEM in the US?
All right. Thank you so much, Paris. Let me get my presentation up.
Wonderful. As Chalvonna's getting that ready, another quick note to everybody, please post your questions through the Q&A and not through the chat function. It will be disabled in a second now. Thank you. Over to you, Chalvonna.
All right. Can everyone see clearly? All right. So today I am here to talk to you about navigating your career journey. And just a quick introduction. My name is Chalvonna Smith. I'm Director of 𝐶's Career Services at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And why I'm here, I just love helping people navigate their career journey by focusing on lifelong learning and development and work-life balance. So what does all that mean? It means that I want you at this point in time to take about 15 seconds and I want you to write down what comes to mind when you hear the word career. And I'm going to wait 15 seconds so you can get your mind running. And I'm going to ask you about it a little bit later, and it's going to come up later. So make sure you write things down. All right. So some of the words I'd expect to hear are words like job or internship, promotions, tasks, things like that. But there's a lot more to a career. And first, I want to remind everyone that the title of this presentation is not how to find a job or find an okay job, but to find your dream job. And because of this, I'll be covering my favorite definition of a career and the concepts that will help turn your search from reality into your dream, or your dream into your reality. So first, for me, a career is a long-term professional journey based on your personal values. It's the path that you embark upon to fulfill your personal goals and ambitions, and it often requires studies, including college or postgraduate studies, to achieve these goals. Careers often have set salaries, and it comes with other benefits such as bonuses, stock options, retirement plans, and things like that. They also provide benefits beyond money, and that's something like personal pride or work satisfaction and self-worth. Now we're going to get back to the words that you wrote down. I'd like to challenge kind of some of the associations that you might have made during that time and kind of how use that to help you with your career journey rather than assuming that your career search will be a linear path. Um, and you'll learn a lot about yourself through this process. So first, one of the reasons I like to reiterate why your career journey is not a linear path, but is more of that journey is you learn and grow over time, and so do your interests, right? And so do your skills. You're learning all the time. Second, some of the jobs that you'll want in the future don't even exist yet. That's something that's really interesting about STEM. It follows the world and its progress. So a great example of that would be there. I'm sure you've all noticed that there has been an uptick in jobs within artificial intelligence and machine learning, especially when it comes to ethics, because there's been a large global cultural shift towards equity. So we need more people in STEM majors to help with global equity when it comes to technologies. So that's an example of a job that did not exist before. And then it's important to remember that the workforce and the industry change just as fast as you change, if not faster. So none of us can see the future. So it's important to really pay attention to these trends. And because we don't know what the future holds all the time for STEM majors, it's important to realize that among all that happens, even a global pandemic, that the really thing that is constant is change. So you want to be able to navigate your career journey through this change. So, really, at the end of it, a good or a great job seeker is one that is prepared for change. And since we can't predict the future, the best way to do that is continue to learn and develop yourself and the skill sets that you have. That means using any and all resources that are available to you during your studies, as well as just in your free time, things that you're interested in. Stay on top of it. Lastly, because we spend a majority of our work on our time at work, even more with our spouses and our kids, it's necessary to consider what's important for your life and what are your personal values. So, for example, if you like a flexible schedule, one where you can say exercise in the middle of the day to maintain your health because that's important to you, that should also inform your job search. And then also, if you value learning, which I'm sure all of you do on this Zoom call, is you might want to think about joining a company that might pay for another degree or pay for conferences and different learning experiences so you can stay on top of the industry, so you can have that career progression that you want overall. And then all of these things that I'm talking to you about, like your values and what's important and maintaining your skills and continuing to learn, that's really about your work life integration. And when you combine these things and these skills, it gives you a better picture of what your actual dream job is, not just a flashy company name or just chasing very large salaries, which is very nice. I will say that comes with a STEM degree in the United States. But also the importance of having that healthy, balanced life because there's different matters that are important to different people. So here's a quick picture of what your career journey will actually look like in the United States. There's a lot of opportunities to switch paths, a lot of adjacent jobs that to be had. And so I want to take away the expectation of if you check boxes, it'll all pan out. You'd really need to really learn about what you want to do and learn about the industry and careers. So, first, to do that, I want to introduce you to just the job search in the US and make you familiar with it because it's quite unique. And then it's going to tie into some of the things we talked about just now. Here's a quick roadmap that I put together for you guys. And then you'll notice also within the presentation, there'll be little yellow notes that are tips or little blue boxes that I want you to something I think that I might not say out loud, but I want you to remember. The first step in the roadmap is reflecting. So at this step, you should ask yourself questions like, how can your values, your skills, including your personal and technical skills, translate into a professional opportunity? And then also ask yourself what relevant jobs or companies might share the same values and how these companies are using your skills and your values to impact the world. Obviously, you're all on this call because you're interested in STEM and you want to make a large impact in the world. Next in this process, next in the reflection process, you would write a brief description of the type of job you want. This would include details like location, tools you want to learn, technologies you want to learn, and skills you want to use. And when you create this job description, it's going to provide you with keywords that you want to use for your search. Um, a lot of people don't know this, but about 80% of jobs in the US are not located online. They're obtained through personal relationships. So to have those personal relationships, you really need to know what you want. And that's why I'm pushing the idea of reflecting upon yourself. And then as a tip, I just want to remind everyone again, it is a learning process. It's not a one-time step or a one-time test to just pass. You really need to have that work-life integration because you want to provide optimal performance at work. I would like to note that I know everyone's situation is different, so you might really need to think about what you need to prioritize. Is it salary? Is it flexibility? Is it a location? You might want to look at what the job prospects are in different locations. And university professionals definitely can help you look at the different states and areas where you have the opportunity to meet the things you want in your personal life, but also your professional life. Second, you need to prepare. The typical job search in the US takes about 2 to 6 months. And that's on a typical year, not a COVID year. So you definitely want to give yourself adequate time to move through the process. And as you receive feedback and you learn more about yourself, you're going to want to make adjustments to the process. And even though I have this picture of a roadmap, you can always loop around if you need to. So one of the steps in the preparation would be to create and update your resume, which is different from a CV, which we will discuss briefly. And then you'll want to remove any unflattering information from your social media, especially now because that's how people get to really connect. And then update your LinkedIn profile or any community that you belong to online that has an online presence. The third step is gathering information. You want to learn about the industry and job requirements so that you can learn to apply what you learn to the position and make sure it's a good match for your knowledge. A lot of students at my university might get discouraged and think they can apply to hundreds of jobs, but really what they need to do is be a little bit more strategic about the search so that you can really pay attention to your studies. And that's why a strategic search is very important. And then another way to do this is creating a list of professional organizations. Again, that will help you with that relationship that you have with others in the professional community to get that 80% of jobs that are not posted online. And then there's a lot of opportunities to watch interviews for the companies, test interviews for the companies that you want to apply to online, and using those resources are important. The fourth step is you definitely want to reflect again and update your social presence once more. This will give the professional community the opportunity to learn about you and then also share your information so that you are visible in the network. And then these authentic professional relationships really are summarized by the idea of networking and sharing information that is beneficial for both parties. 6, you'll want to connect with your network by attending information sessions, career fairs, and meet directly with people again when that opportunity comes. And then contacting alumni or attending informational interviews with friends, family, professionals in the field to learn more about what you're going to do. So I would suggest making a list of these contacts. And then finally, remember, do not ask for a job. You really just want to know more information when you're searching for a job in the US. It's about those relationships. And then seventh, you'll want to apply in a strategic manner. Again, I don't want you to waste your time. So you should be using well-known search engines, using those keywords that I talked to you about a little bit earlier. And then one of my tricks is when I do use it, I do have use these search engines. I have the job title, and I might include some of the things that are important to me so that I'm only getting results of companies that make it very visible that they want to make a certain impact in the world, or if there's certain technologies you want to be able to use because you want a particular job 5 years from now, you want to know you have that opportunity to learn it there. So checking that out. And then you want to plan for about an hour or two a week for this search, because again, it takes about 2 to 6 months. And saving your documents for each application, because each application will be different. And that's why I say be strategic about your application process, because if you have to make a different document for each job you apply to, it's very hard to do that for 20 jobs that you apply for, because then again, your cover letter and your resume, which we'll discuss later, should be tweaked towards that job. Next, I'm going to tell you just quickly about career journey essentials, so that your cover letter, your resume, and the importance of networking. A resume is about who you are and what you know and what you know how to do. All right. So the resume and cover letter are documents that are essential in the job application process, and it's really might be the first and only opportunity that you get to make with employers or people that are recruiting. So it's very important to have these documents reviewed by professionals to make sure that you're putting your best face forward. And I want everyone to know that in the United States, a CV and a resume are very different. A CV is used for more academic jobs in the medical fields and in education. It'll include things like research experience, projects, teaching experience, everything. So a CV can be several pages, but a resume in the United States should typically be only 1 page. Some will say 2, but usually once you get to the 2-page limit, you'll have such a strong network that you might not even have to really use a resume. So it's just making sure that network is strong and that your documents are well formatted. So I want to just go over resumes really quick. There are several different styles of resumes, but for most people, the chronological or the combination of chronological and functional is recommended, especially in STEM, unless your employer asks for your CV, and then in that case, you would provide it. Formatting is also important. Formatting is typically where students kind of get confused because it differs all around the world about what a resume should look like and what it should include. But it's one of the most crucial documents because recruiters only spend about 7 to 10 seconds looking at your resume at the first glance. So that formatting is very essential to get noticed by companies. And then within STEM, a lot of the companies, there's a lot of competition. So there are computer programs that will tag resumes as unqualified. So one of the things that I definitely tell my students and my network is definitely using those words that are used in the job description without plagiarizing what is in the job description. And I want to really emphasize that point. One, you want the programs to view your resume as a qualified applicant, but also you don't want to plagiarize because then it looks bad on character. So there's a nice balance. And if you need help with that, that's why a professional can help you with that as well. So here you'll see a list of things that you should include on your resume and some things that you should definitely avoid. Like you definitely don't want to use first person, like I develop an app an app that did X. You would change the formatting to it, and you will see a quick example about that in a couple minutes. And then also, you definitely don't want to include too much personal information like photos, marital status, and things like that. So next is the required resume sections. Here you'll see a list of required sections. And this is really an extension of your formatting. So this might look a little familiar. And then you can also add other sections that are relevant for your resume. As STEM students, of course, you would then add technical skills. You could put publications and research as well, as long as it stays inside of that page limit that we discussed. And this is I think, probably the most important slide. You want to write a strong description of what you do. Because again, you get 7 to 10 seconds to make an impression on one sheet of paper. So you want to be able to do that. So this is an example of how I tell my students to structure sentences on their resume so that they are strong and will get noticed by employers and recruiters. And all this information is available publicly, which we can share later. Oh, and one more thing about the sentences. You want to focus on actions, outcomes, and details. So making sure the sentence structure is as appears. Here we have an example of 2 different types of resumes. And next we will quickly cover cover letters. Although in the STEM industries, cover letters are kind of going away. I'm sure a few of you have noticed when you apply online, cover letters are optional in a lot of tech industries. I know, I believe it is Facebook, Amazon, they no longer require cover letters for most positions. So let's go over what a cover letter is. A cover letter is the opportunity to share your story, and it should complement your resume, not reiterate what is in your resume or repeat it. It's kind of a highlight, and it gives the employer a more idea about you, and then it also lets them know how you would communicate if they hired you. So that's why the grammar and information is so important. So in a cover letter, there's a 3-step process that you can see here, that we want you to choose your focus and then match your experience and make that connection. And you'll notice when you're making that connection and talking about your experiences, it goes back to those things that you value. And we're going to talk about sentence creation a little further down the line when we talk about networking. For your cover letter, it's important to provide just a quick overview, and a cover letter should never, ever, 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 and under any circumstances be over 1 page. Cover letters, like resumes, have mandatory sections, or at least sections that will help you get noticed. And here you'll see how we broke down those different formats. It's very similar to a traditional letter. You'll notice that that's what's different is it will read like a influential and informational piece that will go to the recruiter. Third, one of the most important things is knowing about your status and what's available to you if you're an F1 student in the United States. First is curricular practical training. It is granted to F1 students to engage in off-campus jobs and for an internship for your and it could be part of your degree at some schools, and others it's optional. But it's whatever you do. I'll stop here, but the easiest way to say it is CPT is like an internship, but it must relate to your field of study. I always tell students you can work at McDonald's, but if you're in STEM, you will need to, be working on the McDonald's app or something like that. Optional practical training is the job after you graduate, and that is 12 months. And then for STEM extension, for those companies that are e-verified, which we can talk about a little bit later, is they have the ability to provide a STEM extension, which is an additional 24 months. So that is 3 years of information. And at the bottom, I know that can be a little confusing. I put my favorite resource about this on the bottom. It's just geared towards students and is less confusing than the DHS website. And then fourth, networking. I know I talked about it a little bit, and I'm going to provide just an outline of things that's helpful for you for networking. So here's an example of a written mode of networking. I created a sample message for you here and the key terms. So if you wanted to network with somebody on LinkedIn or other resources that you use, there's a 4-step process. It's about making a connection. You can do that easily if you learned about yourself and know your skill sets and how to apply them and what you want. State the purpose. Again, that's knowing what you want. Removing the pressure. People are very busy, and it allows them to take that opportunity to pause and figure out how they want to help you, or if they can help you at a later date. And then an action statement. Again, that's knowing what you want and asking for it. And then when you're in person, we have a 5-step approach by networking, and we call that an elevator pitch. So it's a quick way to sell yourself in the length of an elevator ride. So if you walked into an elevator and Jeff Bezos happens to be there, this is what you would say quickly. And I wrote a quick sentence to see how it sounds. And it would be like, I'm a graduate engineering student working at Company X on the quality assurance team. I'm very interested in healthcare tech policy because, and then I would insert a value that I talked about. And then I would say, combined with my 3 years of a particular skill set, I consistently, and then you say your impact of your related and future goals. However, I'm ready to explore. And then that's when you would insert what you want. So that's why the reflection piece is so important. And then fifth, these are just quick emerging trends that I've noticed in career services in the US. And it really has been changing with COVID. So I would definitely say, just as every industry changes, so does career services in the US and searching for a job. Again, the only thing that is constant is change. So we don't know where things are going, but I want to let you know what I've noticed about what's going on in the job market in the US. So first, I mentioned this earlier, but this idea of banishing the cover letter, it's now by some companies seen as a little performative, but others will find a great value in it. So you'll notice there's definitely a mix of them out there. COVID also made companies realize that remote work is extremely possible. So a lot of companies that wouldn't even think about hiring someone across the country or across the world, they're now considering that. And then third, micro learning opportunities. You'll notice there's like Google's offering project management opportunities and certificates for free. Different companies are starting to provide those micro learning opportunities. And then with micro work opportunities, internships have started to move to almost contract type work. At George Washington University, we do have a resource that is about micro internships. So it'll be maybe 3 weeks of work for a project, and then the company may or may not renew it. Another insight is the what I call the rise of the creator. Employers are looking for your creative abilities now and looking for an online portfolio. So if you have that ability to create an online portfolio, that is something that I would highly recommend. And then the importance of self-reflection and values. Companies now are, especially in the tech industry, telling their applicants about different ways that they can contribute to their life. For example, there are these groups called ERGs, and they're employer resource groups. So they want to help you, and if you wanted to know what it's like, say, being Indian at a Deloitte in Arlington, Virginia, there are now different resources that will help you connect with people with similar backgrounds. One of my favorites is called 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐿, so it lets you look up what it's like to be from a particular group and working within that industry, especially in STEM, when some of the population might not be reflective of everyone that has followed certain career paths. And then finally, just recognition of work-life integration. So again, you'll notice like a lot of the big tech companies are now considering benefits that will say help families or continue learning, and they'll have a learning path through which you would be able to get a promotion and things like that. So that's something you would want to consider. And those are just some of my insights that I have about career services, finding a job in the US, especially STEM. And if there's any other, and we'll have time for questions after the next presentation, the next presentation. Thank you, Paris.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chalvonna. This was fantastic. For everyone attending, we've seen many of your questions coming in. We're going to have another short presentation and then go into Q&A. Please keep posting your questions into the Q&A section on Zoom. But without further ado, next up, I'd like to welcome Brittany. She is the director of the admission. She leads the graduate enrollment management and advising function at GW. I'm going to hand it over to her for telling you guys more about the school. Great.
All right, thank you very much, Paris, and thank you very much to my coworker Chalvonna for the presentation she just gave. I'm excited to be with you today to share a little bit more about one opportunity that you may have if you are looking to eventually have a STEM career in the US. Doing a master's in a STEM field is a great step in achieving that career goal. So I'm here today to talk with you specifically about the opportunities that we have for Masters of Science degrees at the George Washington University, specifically at the School of Engineering and Applied Science. I'll start off by sharing just a very brief overview about GW. We are a private university located right in the heart of Washington, D.C. Our main campus is about 5 blocks away from the White House. We are 2 blocks away from the World Bank and the IMF. So we take up about a 6 by 6 block radius in the downtown city neighborhood of Foggy Bottom. And we are located in a very safe part of Washington, D.C. We were founded in 1821 by an act of Congress. We are predominantly a graduate student focused institution, so which is a little unique in the US. Most institutions, they'll have more students studying at the bachelor's degree level, but we have about 15,000 students studying with us at the graduate degree level and about 10,000 students studying with us at the undergraduate level. We have, along with our main campus in the Foggy Bottom campus in downtown Washington, D.C., we also have a smaller residential campus located about 10 minutes away in the northern Georgetown section of the city. And then we also have our Virginia Science and Technology campus, which is a larger campus located about 40 minutes from our downtown Washington, D.C. campus, closer towards Washington Dulles International Airport. And we have much more space out there to do certain types of laboratories, and there are ways for students to travel back and forth between all of our campuses. And finally, we are a very large research-oriented institution, but along with the School of Engineering, there are also 13 other schools and colleges within the university. We have a School of Business, along with a law school, a School of Medicine. We have the Elliott School of International Affairs. We have our Columbian College of Arts and Sciences, which is home to all of our liberal arts and hard science programs. So we are a comprehensive research institution. But I'm going to now talk specifically about the School of Engineering and Applied Science, which you might hear me referring to as SEAS throughout the presentation. just because it's easier to say than the School of Engineering and Applied Science. But we have 6 different academic departments. We have over 12 fields of studies at the master's level. We have over 90 full-time faculty members. And here's just a couple of other kind of fast facts in a way to talk a little bit more about our institution. We have students from over 47 countries studying with us. So we are a very international and institution, which is very reflective of the Washington, D.C. community that we are in. As you can see here, we do have, we are highly recognized when it comes to rankings according to US News and World Report, as well as most recently, our online Masters in Engineering programs were ranked number 15th. And we do have a combination of online and in-person master's degrees, but at this point, students who are outside of the US and would be needing an F1 student visa are only eligible to apply for our on-campus programs. Our home base is the Science and Engineering Hall, which is one of the largest instruction buildings in all of the universities located in DC. It is a Gold LEED certified building. It was opened in 2015, and it is the home base for all of our engineering and computer science students, as well as our students that are studying any of the hard science fields. And we also have space in the building for our School of Medicine, as well as our School of Public Health. There is a Class 100 nanofabrication clean room in the basement. We also have a high bay with a strong wall and a strong floor for our structural engineering students to do research projects on. And we have many high resolution imaging suites as well. If you're interested in doing a kind of virtual walkthrough of our building, we have an opportunity for you to take a look at our virtual tour that is on our website, but we also do have the opportunity for you to join a virtual live guided tour, and that is where one of our staff members will walk you through the building virtually and share information and point out different labs and different classrooms, and you can ask any questions they may have. So if you're interested in learning more, I highly encourage you to visit the website and either walk through the building virtually yourself or sign up for one of our guided virtual tours. So right here is a list of all of our master's degree programs that we have. All of our master's degree programs are thesis optional, meaning you can choose to write a thesis during your final semester, or you could just continue on with regular coursework. All of the programs range from 10 to 12 classes total, so that is 30 to 36 credit hours total. And they typically take 2 years to complete, and that is for a student who is studying full-time for 3 semesters. And then usually at your last semester, your final semester in the program, you may only be registered for 1 or 2 classes that are required in order to graduate. But that is a great opportunity. It gives more students time then to focus on the job search. We also have a variety of graduate certificate programs. These are smaller types of programs that a student can do, especially an F1 student, can do a graduate certificate program while they are studying in a master's degree program. And the credits that they have earned that goes towards the graduate certificate will also go towards their master's degree program. So the graduate certificates range anywhere from 4 to 6 courses total. And you can see here there's a wide variety of different graduate certificate programs, and almost all of our master's programs at least have one grad certificate that students can also do in addition to the master's degree program. I will briefly go over our admissions requirements. We do have an online application that students can create a profile in. And for anyone who is interested in applying to this upcoming fall semester, we have provided you with an application fee waiver code listed here. And so that means if you do end up applying for the fall 2022 semester, feel free to put this code in at the end when you go to submit your application, and you will not have to pay the $80 application fee. We also do require students studying from India in particular to submit either TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo scores. And most of our minimums are an 80 on the TOEFL, 7.0 on the IELTS, and I believe it's 110 on Duolingo. But ultimately, there are a couple programs such as data analytics that do require a higher TOEFL minimum. So I encourage you to take a look at our website, because there are a couple of programs that do have higher minimums than others. But also, we're happy to announce for the fall 2022 semester, the GRE is being waived for any of our MS applicants. This was something that we did back in the fall 2021 and spring 2021 semesters. And we are continuing to do so. So for the next fall semester, students do not have to submit GRE scores. We also ask for 2 letters of recommendation. Those can be academic or professional, a statement of purpose, a resume, or a CV. And then finally, we ask for unofficial copies of your transcripts or academic records. That does mean that for students who have done an undergrad degree in India, we will require you to submit your mark sheets for each semester. And we, for programs in the School of Engineering, we do require students to have a 4-year bachelor's degree in order to be considered for admission into any of our master's degree programs. The deadline to apply for this upcoming fall 2022 semester is January 15th. So there's lots of time still for you to learn more and to submit your application. But we encourage you to do so, especially by this deadline, if you want to be considered for these scholarships or different types of funding opportunities. We offer merit-based awards, which are tuition discounts for students who are applying to our master's degree programs. This is a great opportunity for us to offer a little bit of a tuition discount to a variety of our students. Again, they're merit-based, so it doesn't matter where you're from. We're looking predominantly at your academic record. There's also no separate application in order to be considered for funding. So we will review all applications for funding opportunities, and you will be notified at the time of your admissions on your admissions letter if you have received a scholarship or any type of funding. And just again, to talk a little bit specifically, what's really unique is our location, and it's our biggest asset for our students and our faculty. Within the School of Engineering, we are relatively small. We have about 1,100 graduate students studying with us and about 800 undergraduates. So we are one of the smaller schools in terms of population within the larger university, but that really does allow our students to have smaller class sizes and allows them access to our full-time faculty members. Also, given our location, we have really strong connections and faculty members doing really interesting research and students doing internships at a variety of different institutions that are located, such as some are listed here, such as the World Bank, the Smithsonian Institution, Amazon. What's interesting is Amazon is creating its second headquarters in the US right in Northern Virginia, which is right across the river from our main campus. It's about 5 metro stops away. So we are excited at what that might at the career opportunities that will bring to the area. But again, we have very strong connections with a lot of these local area organizations, and it provides our students with unique opportunities to do internships. And Chalvonna has talked a lot about this, but just to briefly share about the W. Scott Amy Career Services Center, specifically for the School of Engineering. So we have career coaches and Chalvonna's team who will work with our graduate students to make sure they understand the job process. There are many workshops and resources that they have to work with our students and to connect to you and to make sure you are ready for the job search and to help you throughout that job search. So I encourage you to visit their website. A lot of the stuff that Chalvonna referred to and those resources are located on the website, and those are accessible to anyone. You don't have to be a student to have access to all of those. But it's a really unique opportunity, especially for our students, like Chalvonna mentioned before briefly, who are studying on an F1 student visa and want to stay on, or they want to be able to do an internship while they are studying through the CPT process. Again, that allows you to work and do an internship. Most of our students will do CPT during the summer between their first and second year of their master's degree program. that may require them to relocate to a different part of the US, but many are willing to do so for a very unique opportunity. And then OPT is what Chalvonna mentioned before, in terms of that allows you to stay working in the US full time, still on your student visa for 12 months. And then there's the additional 24-month STEM extension for those students who are working for E-verified employers. So ultimately, and all of our programs at the School of Engineering are STEM designated. So that means that a student who graduates from any of our programs will be eligible for OPT as well as the OPT STEM extension. And just to give you a brief idea, back in 2019, we had 514 students participating in CPT and OPT. And I think 37 of them alone were just working at Amazon. So we do have a lot of experience with working with students who are interested in CPT and OPT, and a lot of resources for you to not only educate yourself, but also educate employers who may not be familiar and don't understand that they can actually hire a student who is doing OPT, and kind of what the steps are for those employers so they understand the process and are able to do so. We also have a variety of different types of resources for our graduate students. Along with having a faculty advisor, all of our graduate students have a professional advisor who's one of my teammates who helps you with the logistics of being a student. We have an international services office that works with all of our international students to make sure you're staying in status. Along with many libraries, we have many different types of student organizations, as well as student health services. And finally, I encourage you, if you're interested in communicating directly with a current student, I encourage you to connect with one of our grad ambassadors. We have one from all of our programs. You can actually send them a direct chat message through our website that's listed here, and they will get back to you within 24 hours and be able to answer questions about what is it like being a student in DC. And you can ask them what it's like to live in DC, or if they've done an internship. They are happy to communicate with any of our prospective students through the chat function on our website. And with that, I think it is time. I will hand things back over to Paris for the Q&A portion. And I believe we might have one more poll, but here, feel free to reach out to us by email, or our website is listed here. And again, I listed the application fee waiver again for those who are interested in applying for the fall 2021-22 semester. So thank you very much. And Paris, I will turn things over to you. Would you like me to stop sharing my screen or keep this up?
You can keep this on the screen. That's great.
Okay.
Brilliant. So thank you, Britt. Very insightful. And I think there are several questions coming in, both for the careers aspect as well as in the admissions. I'm going to try and take as many as we can. So a request to everyone in the audience, please keep posting your questions. We will try and get to cover as many as we can. We have asked both the speakers to give us a little bit more time than the designated session period, and we're pleased that they've agreed to be here with us. Before I take the questions, there's just one quick poll that we're going to push out just to understand some of your motivations. We're going to go live with the poll now. The idea is for us to understand which of these MS programs are you most interested in. Pick a field that excites you the most. We're going to keep this poll for about 15 seconds. And for everyone putting questions, please keep adding to them to the Q&A section. We'll cover as many as we can. Wonderful. We'll close the poll in 5 seconds. So requesting you all to put your vote as fast as you can. And here we go. Let's look at some of the results. Okay, quite a split. There are people interested in computer science, computer engineering, data analytics, electrical engineering. So fantastically, mix of nearly all domains. There is a lot of information available, and we would encourage you guys to write to the GW team as well. They're more than willing and happy to help you with any other questions you may have after this session too. So without further ado, we'll try and take some of the questions that have come in. First question, and I think this has partially been answered, but I'll take this again. And Chalvonna, this will come to you. By taking STEM courses, how many more years can you stay up to in the US at maximum?
So there's I'll go over the process because it makes it a little bit easier. Once you are in school, you get CPT, and that's basically an internship. You can do that while you're in school, and it's off campus. There is a limit to what you can do, which is about 12 months. So you don't want to overdo that because then it disqualifies you for OPT, which is the next step. And you can think of CPT as an internship, but it has to be related to your field of study. So you can't do like babysitting or things like that, but things that follow in with your field of study, because we want to know that you are using your degree at work. So you have 12 months of that time. For OPT, that's after you graduate, and that is 12 months as well. And then for STEM, for the STEM extension, it used to be shorter, but now it is a total of 24 months. So that's a total of, you can do the CPT during your school, OPT 12 months, STEM extension 24 months. So that's a total of 3 years.
Yeah.
But I do have, we do have resources online that make it a little bit more clear.
Mhm.
And I would like to reiterate my favorite resource is studyinthestates.gov. It makes it way easier to understand.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Britt, the next question is for you, and this is one we get very often, so I'm sure you're going to love to answer this one. How important is the rank of the college for MS in computer science?
I get this question a lot. I think so. What is really important for students, if you are considering doing a master's degree in the US, many of the rankings in general that are out there that you may have heard of they are focused on undergrad. And it's really important that you, if you're looking at rankings, you first understand what is the information that has been gathered to put to those rankings together. There are so many different types of rankings out there. Some are only looking at feedback and surveying alumni who have graduated from those institutions. Some are only looking for feedback from other faculty members that work in similar fields. And so I encourage students, if you are considering looking at and using rankings, that you use them as maybe a small part of your overall search, and maybe as a way to maybe help identify if you really aren't sure of any programs or where to start looking at all for any types of programs in the US, maybe to go to some of those rankings. But ultimately, there are a lot of institutions with really great programs that may not be ranked in the top 20 or top 50 or even top 100. And you really need to consider, what is it that you're looking to get out of your graduate program? And will that institution provide you with those opportunities and resources for you to be able to achieve those goals as you are graduating? So for instance, maybe you do want to work at a particular university, or you want to work at a particular company, and they're located, but there isn't a top ranked institution within 50 miles of that particular employer where you want to work. It still would behoove you to consider an institution that is near that employer, because they most likely will have strong ties or connections to that employer, and it would help you to do your degree there, do an internship, and get into that to that employer by doing the internship, because you've gone to that institution. So I know that in other places outside of the US, rankings are taken very seriously, but I can just say candidly, in the rankings, we don't really look at rankings in the US. I don't even know what my school's ranked it for computer science off the top of my head. And because again, that just shows that that's not one of the main things that we are focusing on. And that's something that I encourage students, if you are looking at rankings, look and see what is actually being used to create those rankings, and don't use that as your only way to search for programs that may be the best fit for you.
Absolutely. And rankings have been a great point in many cases to start your search, but definitely not where you need to finish. Thank you, Britt, for that. The next question, Chalvonna, is for you. What are some of the good events in the US where STEM master students can build their network?
Ooh, there are so many. And it really depends on where you're located too. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is considering location when you're looking at jobs. So for example, in Washington, D.C., there's probably a career networking event every single day, multiple times, because it's just a very learning based city. And a lot of people are very interested in building those connections and networks. So, a good way to start looking is a lot of events are on LinkedIn, professional organization events. If you're in STEM, there's so many associations you can be involved in, especially if you're in a larger city or in a city that has like a company that has a very large influence in it. And those are people that can give you that industry information I talked to you about as well, and creating that network. So even if you're not ready to look for a job, you can start to go to these events, make friends, and they can really help you on that journey, because a lot of times they know where the jobs are. And different types of events too. There's also invite only events for careers. So starting with LinkedIn, there's groups also called a website called Meetup, which is one of my favorite. It's professionals that come together as well as just fun things. You can find a cricket team that also just happens to like computer science. That exists here. So anything that you are interested in, there is an opportunity for it.
Fantastic. There's several more questions coming in, so I'm going to try and turn this to a bit of a rapid fire for both of you to try and take as many as we can. Brittany, the next one will come to you. How is the Indian CGPA out of 10 converted to the American-based GPA to check the minimum admissions criteria is met?
Sorry, that was my dog, if you heard that. So we, just to kind of briefly state, so most institutions, they will notify you if you need to do an external credential evaluation. And that means you'll send your transcripts to an external organization that will do a line-by-line evaluation and then transfer your 10 points CGPA into the US-based kind of 4.0 GPA scale. My office, we do that all internally. And so we do not require students to send their transcripts to an external credential evaluator. We will do that, and we abide by kind of the ACRO method, and that is an organization of credential evaluators in the US who they've put together their own method for actually translating foreign credentials into our US-based 4.0 scale. So I'm not necessarily going to tell you exactly how we do that, because some institutions do it differently, but I will say that we have our own process that we will then translate the 10-point scale into the 4.0 scale.
So the best thing is reach out to them and they'll tell you more about it.
Yes, reach out to the institution you're interested in. Yes.
Fantastic. The next question is from Shashwat, and Chalvonna, we'll go to you for this one. I've heard companies prefer to hire from the same state where you do your master's. Is it difficult to get a job in a different state?
The answer to that is no. People relocate all the time. A lot of our students end up moving to different states as well. So it's very possible. I'm not even originally from the state that I work in now. So and especially with STEM, you're your ability to move into different areas is very broad across the United States. There's even some areas where they're desperately seeking for people to move out. There is a need for this talent that you would bring to these companies, and every state is desperate to hire really smart people. So you can get a job in any state. And I would say when you're looking at schools, maybe consider where those alumni go. I at GW, and especially on my website where I can share a little bit later, for your programs, we do have interactive maps that show where our graduates go, and it's all across the country. So that's one thing you might want to look at, is where alumni from different universities end up.
Fantastic. The next one, Brittany, will come to you. What's the procedure to join? I mean, I think you've spoken about the admissions criteria at large, but I want to take the second half of this question, which sometimes can be confusing for several candidates. There's a candidate who has about 2 years of work experience. So generally their perception is that right after graduation, they want to pursue a master's program. His question is, what are the chances for someone with 2 to 3 years of work experience to get into an MS at a US university after working?
Yeah, so I think it's important. Most programs in engineering and computer science will not require work experience. And I can tell you right now that about 60% of the students who start every fall and spring semester with us are coming directly out of their bachelor's degree experience, and about 40% of them are coming from maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years of work experience. So we don't, it's not going to hurt or necessarily help your application if you have work experience. The only types of programs in the US that are really typically require a minimum number of work experience are MBA programs. And that will be clearly indicated. I would say maybe any top 20 MBA program right now will require 2 years of work experience, but many of those requirements are also changing. So, but just generally speaking, if you're interested in pursuing an engineering or CS degree, work experience is not required. And we encourage those students to pursue, because when you have had a couple years of work experience, you know a little bit more about what you want, and you can reflect that in your statement of purpose as to, I got my degree in computer science and I've worked for 2 years. During that experience, I realized that I really want to focus on machine learning, and your program has a really great machine learning. So really, if you do have work experience, use that as an opportunity to inform the admissions team as to why it is that you want to pursue this program, and that is helpful.
Wonderful. There are a couple of more admissions ones, so I'll go right at it, and then I'll come back with some career ones to you, Chalvonna. So Britt, next question. If someone is majoring in electrical engineering and is considering to apply for computer science, is that okay?
Yes, so you can apply for programs to do a master's in an area that you don't necessarily have that exact background in the for your bachelor's degree. A couple things: most institutions, if this is the case, they will have a list of courses that they would have liked for you to have taken, even if you don't have a degree, a bachelor's degree in those fields. And I think what's important, and a lot of times if they're close enough, you may have already taken some. So we want, for CS, we want to see that you've taken some programming courses. You have to at least have calculus. There's certain minimums that you probably most likely also took in electrical engineering. So that's not as big of a jump as some other students have asked about. But I do encourage students to use your statement of purpose as the opportunity to share why it is that you want to change and focus on CS now, because we can see your academic success, but what was it? Was it that you did research with a faculty member and this made you interested in this area? Did you have some work experience? Did you do an internship? What is it that has caused you now to want to pursue CS, and be able to kind of explain that to us and build that bridge for us in your statement of purpose.
Fantastic. Next one is again admissions related. How many applications on average does GW receive every year for STEM programs? and how many of them are shortlisted or selected?
Okay, well, I don't, so for all of our STEM programs, that's a lot because STEM programs aren't just located in the School of Engineering. So we also have STEM programs in our business school as well as in our Columbian College of Arts and Sciences. So I honestly don't know what the total number would be. It is thousands and thousands, but I can tell you kind of generally speaking for the School of Engineering, we do get about 3,000 applications for a fall semester. We typically have anywhere from a class size of 250 to 300 starting with us at the master's degree level every fall semester. And I will say that the most popular program right now where we get the most applications from and the largest incoming program is computer science. That is just common right now for all institutions that have computer science. So that is our biggest program, and we have at least 100 students starting every year, if not 150, depending upon the start term, just in our computer science program alone. So we do have more information, like our grad student kind of profile on our website, but those are just kind of some high ballpark numbers for you.
Okay, and you know, each profile and each individual may have different goals, so we recommend you reach out to the GW team to learn more of how your fit may be the right one. Chalvonna, I'll come for the next question. I'm going to combine two questions because they're both on a very similar theme. I'm conscious of time. How important is a master's degree to get a job in the US? Can you get one without that through intercompany transfers or you know, by directly applying? Is that route even open?
I would say it's definitely open. There is a possibility. And I think really what you need to look at is where you plan to work or where you'd like to work, and then see what the requirements are for those types of companies and those type of roles. The US does have a lot of master's degrees there. And then also it depends on the program that you're interested in too. Some graduate programs have a higher return on investment and others do not have as high. So they're both options. And then also with education in the US as well, there's an opportunity, people get degrees at an older age sometimes, and then also at a very young age. So the possibilities, I would say, are endless.
Yeah. Now, I'd just like to add to that. I think, you know, it's a competitive space that you're going into. So, you know, several other candidates will be competing for the same role with a master's degree. So yes, it's not a no-go, and you could get, you know, your golden shot at it. But a lot matters, you know, is that experience equally valued to a master's degree? And each employer will look at that differently. So, you know, look at a master's degree as an investment into your future. Most times over a 4 to 5 year period, the return on investment is extremely high for most programs in the US. And there's, you know, there are companies that publish research around this. So go out and look for that. You should be able to look that up as well. I'll take two last questions. There's more coming in, but I'll try and take as quickly and briefly as I can. There's one question about, do you suggest students who are going to finish their undergraduate in fall 2021 to apply for MS right after they study? Or, you know, and this is something we touched on briefly, but Britt, if you want to add anything to this, or does 1 or 2 years of experience help before applying to a program?
Again, I think if you know exactly what it is that you want to do, and like Chalvonna said, you know that you're not going to get an entry-level job doing that without your master's degree, go and do your master's right away. If you are not exactly sure what it is you want to do, and you do have some job opportunities that right after graduation, maybe work for a year or two and figure out what it is that you exactly want to do and where you want to focus, because your master's degree is you will learn about a very specialized topic. So you want to make sure that you know what topic that is, and you can take advantage of and gain as much as you can during that degree. So I think it's really up to the student and what it is. If you know what you want to do right away, then go ahead and get your master's. If you're not really sure though, go work for a couple of years and figure it out, and then do your master's. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, fantastic answer. There's a couple of people asking about LinkedIn profiles for both of you. So our team will just post that in the chat for people that want to connect. There's a student who wants to apply to 2023 intake and he'd like to stay connected. Our team will share that with you briefly. Last question before we close today, or actually last two. One, which is slightly different. There's a student currently pursuing their BTech, Jashan, Jashan's pursuing his BTech in India. Is there an opportunity where he can move from year 3 itself? This is
to pursue a master's or continue on with their
undergrad,
continue on with their bachelor's.
Correct.
So I will say that most U.S. institutions do allow students to transfer into their undergraduate programs. It is not common to transfer though after your second year. And that is mainly because in order to graduate with a bachelor's degree from the institution in the US, you need to have a certain number of credit hours that you've taken at that institution. In order to meet that number, that usually means you need to be studying there for at least 2 years. But I will say that there are some institutions out there that might have some 3+1 agreements with US institutions. And if that's the case, then that is a unique situation where a student in India might be able to actually transfer to a US institution for their final year, but it is not very common, and mostly students transfer after their second year in their undergrad experience.
Great, and we'd recommend for the student asking to also speak to your local university counselor so they can help you with anything on that too. Last question for the day, and this has come up, the candidates asked us twice. I think that's a fantastic closure to today's session. Is studying in the US or Canada the best option for Indian or international students? I'll let both of you answer this one.
Well, obviously, I mean, we're biased. I would like to clarify, studying in the US is a great opportunity, seeing as how we are located in the US. Not to say that our neighbors up north is also not is not a great opportunity. It's just different in terms of what your kind of career paths may be, and kind of what you have, what your options for doing internships and staying on. And we just have very different immigration systems and things along those lines. So I think obviously some of the best programs in the US are some of the best STEM programs are located in the US. And if it's a really great opportunity for you to study alongside of students from all over the world, and to be able to do an internship or stay working, we are in desperate need, like Chalvonna said, we are in desperate need of STEM professionals in the US. So as long as you are taking advantage of all the resources and the networks that the institution in the US is providing you, the chances of you getting a job post-graduation in a STEM field are very, very high. And then you can then work, once you're doing OPT, to navigate then the sponsorship option and the H-1B process. So of course, we think it's a great idea to pursue a STEM degree in the US. So definitely consider it.
Okay.
And I side with Brittany for sure.
Wonderful. I think with that, we'd like to thank you both for taking time and spending the last hour and a half with us. We hope for everyone in the audience, we've managed to cover as much as we can. Please feel free to reach out to the school for any other questions, or write to us, and we'll try and connect you to them if there is a way that we can help you for. Thank you again. Thank you for everyone attending. All the best in your search, and we look forward to staying connected in times to come. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Chalvonna.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good evening.